Hey YouTube, I'm Ali, welcome to the channel and welcome to another game review, this time for the game Splendor. Now Splendor is an old game, but it's one of my favourites and so I thought it would be high time to have a look at it in a little more depth. Now let's kick things off with a quick look at the premise. So, Splendor is set in the Renaissance period, and we all take the role of rich merchants looking to acquire gems and mines that we can get more gems for, all in order to get prestige. Prestige equates to points here, and 15 prestige points means you win the game. And let's start with audience. Who is this game intended for? Who can play it? I would argue that I would just say it's meant for the family. There's nothing taboo here, so there's no adult themes that you have to worry about. It's a little too complex, perhaps, for very, very young children, but honestly, pretty much anyone can play this game. Okay, number of players. The box says 2 to 4 people, and I've got no argument with that at all. We've played it with 2 people, we've played it with 3, we've played it with 4. Definitely a better game with 4 people. Can you play it in pairs? Yes, you can. We've done that as well. We've played it with 8 people. That's couples all playing against each other. That's been really good fun as well. How long does the game last? For 4 players, it's about 30 to 40 minutes, I would say, depending on whether you've got new people or whether there's a lot of thinking going on, and there can be a lot of thinking going on in this game. Well, there can be a little bit of thinking in this game. So about 30 minutes. The type of game, I would probably call this a card game. There are cards in this game, definitely, that you lay out, and that kind of forms the board in one way. So I could argue it's a board game, but I'm going to go with a card game because there is no physical board as such, but you are laying out cards in the form of a board, in effect. Can you play this when you're traveling? No, I think there are too many little bits and pieces. They would get lost. So unless you had a very big table, even if you're on a train or something, I think it's probably a little too many components to play when you're traveling. Let's talk about the rules. Is this a very complex game? Well, it took us about 2 minutes to read the rule book, and it took less than a minute to explain the rules to a new player. By my definition, that makes the game a simple game to understand, and that's a great thing to have. On to depth, which I'm going to call as a separate thing, and this is something new to my way of describing things. I'm going to put this as a middle level kind of game. So it's not super deep. There are strategies that you can apply, and there are different ways in which to win the game, which I shall come on to later, but neither is it super simple. So I would probably put this in the middle somewhere, and I'll find an icon for that to put up here. Okay, in terms of interactions, there is competition here, so it's not a co-op game, but I would call it indirect confrontation. That means you're not technically targeting one individual and stopping them doing something, but you are doing things to help yourself, and in doing so are probably going to hinder others. So indirect conflict there for interaction. And then finally on to single play versus team play. Is this a single player game or a team player game? It's very much a single player game. I did mention you can play it as a couple, but really each person is playing for themselves. There's no companionship here. There's no alliance forming here. There's no team play. On to mechanics then. I would say that there are 3 basic mechanics here. The first is card drafting. There is an element of card drafting in this game. You are drawing cards up, placing them down onto the board and then into your hands, and you're going to be actively seeking certain cards above others. There's an element of set collection here. The way the game works, you're going to be looking to purchase certain cards all the way through. Certain cards carry prestige value. Certain other cards will enable you to get cards that have prestige value. And remember, prestige equals points, and that's what you need to win. So there's an element of set collecting. You're going to look to, say, get 3 diamonds and 3 rubies, or you're going to spend 3 diamonds and 3 rubies in order to be able to purchase that particular card. So there is an element of set collecting there. And then the third mechanic, Board Game Geek has a concept of contracts, which is that you collect a certain thing and then you're able to cash it in for a reward. I'm going to step back a little and say that I'm going to encompass that in something I'm going to call the engine build. So the engine build mechanic encompasses that element of it, but it encompasses a little bit more. And that is to say that you are building an engine, you're building a mechanism by which to be able to have further goes in the game. And that's exactly what happens here. You're looking to purchase certain cards that will enable you to then do other things like grab nobles, which give you more prestige points, or grab other cards which have prestige points printed on them too. Okay, let's have a look at game components. We'll start with the box itself. Now, the box is quite large. It's sturdy. I think it's a little bigger than it needs to be. And the reason I say that is because the box comes with an inlay. And I've taken the inlay out here, and I'm going to hold it up and hopefully not drop things. There we go. There's the inlay. So you can see that there's quite a lot of depth to this inlay, and I'm not sure it needs to exist. Now, what I did like about the game is that you get a set of... here we go, let's hold it up a bit. There we go. We get a set of cards here, but you get these lovely tangible tokens which represent your gems, made of plastic and very, very hard wearing. So we've had this game for a number of years now, played it regularly. The cards and the tokens are pretty great. The one thing I didn't like about the inlay, which I've already mentioned, I think makes the board a little bigger than it needs to be, is the fact that the cards just fit. So when you put these back into the box and then close the box, if you're carrying it around, they tend to slip and slide. So ideally, you'd probably end up putting them in Ziploc bags. But yeah, good quality components, great artwork on them, nice thick cardboard for certain tiles and things. These are the noblemen that I mentioned you can purchase. Yeah, good quality, great components. That's that. On to theme then. What did I think of the theme? I don't think I can give it full marks here. And the reason being is because actually I could take, although the artwork does depict the Renaissance and that sort of, you do get that Italian vibe from the pictures you look at. The reality is you could swap the gems very easily for another commodity and the game would still work. You could be, for example, farmers, and instead of gems, you're looking to get carrots and onions and potatoes, for example. The game would still work just as well in those situations as it does for this current theme of Renaissance, Italy and merchants. So yeah, mixed for me, not high marks because I could swap the two out. So let's go through those 5 questions and then start with meaningful decisions. Did this game have meaningful decisions? I would say most definitely yes. Pretty much everything you do in this game has some consequence. And that's a good thing because it means that you are slightly cautious with what you do. And although you may not feel it to begin with if you're a new player, every choice I think you make has an impact on whether you're going to win at the end. And that generally I think is a good thing. Okay, multiple pathways to winning. Were there multiple ways to win this game? Technically, I'd say yes. Again, I would argue that there is. Do you go for the high-value cards right from the offset? Do you aim to get the nobleman as your winning strategy and just collect those? Or do you go for those sort of steady, smaller cards that everyone else seems to be able to get right at the beginning? There are a few pathways here in which you can win and a few different strategies that will help you along the way. Again, I think the game is shaped by who you're playing with. So yes, I would say there are multiple ways to win this game. Skill versus luck. Is the game balanced? I would say it is. Again, I'd say there's probably a little more skill perhaps than there is luck. The luck very much comes in the cards that appear, whether those gems that you're looking for will turn up in the card deck or not. And the skill comes from determining what to pick up, what strategies to take in order to win. Now, the reason I like this, and the reason I've called it an important question in determining whether a game is good, is because it tells me whether a newer player is able to compete comfortably, or at least have a fighting chance against a seasoned player. And because I think this game is balanced, I think that holds true. A new player will be able to compete against a seasoned player without too much of a disadvantage. Number 4, and that is engagement. Was I engaged in this game? I think so, yes. I think there's very little downtime. Generally, when we play, there's not a huge amount of downtime. And when you aren't playing, you are thinking about what's going on with other players. You are thinking about your next move. So I think you are engaged. I did make a point that the theme itself doesn't necessarily capture you. It's a bit abstract for my liking, but that's okay. The actual gameplay is engaging. And then finally, question 5, clear iconography. Did the game have clear iconography and readable text, legible text? Yes, it did. I think it did very well in this way. In fact, clear pictures, clear understanding, clear rule book. The rule book didn't miss anything out, so I didn't have to go hunting for rules on the internet for anything that was unclear. I think it was very well put together in that way. Okay, so that's me, and that's another review over and done with. That's me done and dusted with Splendor. Now, I will say again that it is an old game, and it's probably been done to death on the internet. But I wanted to try out this sort of speedier new format of reviewing games that I hope you too would agree was just as useful as the older version, but a little bit more snappy. Let me know what you think. If you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up. And a like. Thumbs up, like, I can never remember which one of those are. But more importantly, if you want to see more of this or any of the other sort of adventures I'm going on as I reconnect with my older hobbies and my past hobbies, do me a favor and subscribe to the channel. But for now, and until next time, guys, take care.